हेलो गाइस, वेलकम बैक टू क्यूरियस एरी। और जुड़ चुके हैं आपके साथ एक और इंटरेस्टिंग डिस्कशन लेके रिगार्डिंग द इंडियन फुटबॉल। और इंडियन फुटबॉल में जो करंट्स हम सबको पता है कि अभी भी रिसेंटली इंटरकॉन्टिनेंटल के लिए स्क्वाड अनाउंस हुई है, उसके बारे में बात करेंगे। इंडिया अंडर 17 के बारे में बात करेंगे और भी क्या क्या इंडियन फुटबॉल में अभी चल रहा है उसके बारे में बात करेंगे। तो हमारे साथ जुड़े हैं नीलंजन सर, तो वेलकम बैक सर अगेन।
थैंक यू हिरन भाई, हाउ आर यू, कैसे हैं आप?
अरे मैं बढ़िया हूँ सर। एंड अरुणवा सर भी हमारे साथ अभी कुछ ही मिनटों में जुड़ेंगे, तो उनसे भी जानेंगे। तो सबसे पहले मैं सर आपसे जानना चाहूंगा कि इंडिया की यहाँ पे इंटरकॉन्टिनेंटल स्क्वाड यहाँ पे अनाउंसमेंट हो चुकी है। 41 मेंबर की स्क्वाड अनाउंसमेंट हुई है। तो आपके हिसाब से व्हाट्स योर थॉट अबाउट दिस? मेरे को तो थोड़ा सा ये ज्यादा लगता है, मतलब 41 इज मतलब कुछ ज्यादा ही नहीं हो गया? मतलब कि इसमें से मतलब आपको नो डाउट आप इंटरकॉन्टिनेंटल कप में तो आप 23 या 25 मैन ही मैक्सिमम लेके जाओगे, क्योंकि ये तो मतलब ऑलमोस्ट चार स्कोर बन सकती है। अगर 44 होते तो 4 बन सकती है, तो ज्यादा नहीं है थोड़ी सी? मेरे को तो थोड़ी सी ज्यादा लगती है टू बी ऑनेस्ट।
देखिए, ज्यादा ये तो थोड़ी सी पर्सपेक्टिव के ऊपर डिपेंड करता है। मैं कोच के मन में जरूर कुछ ना कुछ प्लान तो होगा। आई बिलीव ही इज प्रिपेयरिंग एंड कीपिंग हिज ऑप्शंस ओपन फॉर द बिग इवेंट विच इज द एफसी एशियन कप कतार 2024। तो उनके लिए शायद कुछ प्लेयर्स को देखना चाहते हैं जो प्लेयर्स को अभी तक उसने देख नहीं पाए हैं। एंड इफ यू लुक एट द स्क्वाड, जनरल ओमिशंस ज्यादा है नहीं, कि यही मोरलेस स्क्वाड आपका 41 बेस्ट प्लेयर्स यही है। एक दो शायद इधर उधर है जो कि ग्रुप में शायद नहीं है, बट आई बिलीव उसी के लिए ही वो इसको डाले हैं, टू हैव ए लुक एट ईच वन ऑफ द प्लेयर्स थोड़ी सी मेटिकुलसली, क्योंकि 25 डे कैंप है, थोड़ी सी प्री सीजन टाइप का भी हो जाएगा। हाँ, इस पूरी, क्योंकि ये प्री सीजन ही कंटिन्यू करेगा पूरा सीजन में। आपका इंटरकॉन्टिनेंटल कप, देन द सैफ चैंपियनशिप, द मारडेका फ्रेंडलीज खेलता है तो फ्रेंडलीज, एंड देन ऑब्वियसली द एशियन कप. So I believe he needs to train each one of them, look into the positives, negatives, fill in the spaces जो जहां पे उनको लगता है। हाँ, 41 बाकी कोचेस थोड़ी सी ज्यादा मानते हैं। 30 बहुत सारे कोचेस मैंने देखा ज्यादा मानते हैं, बट ऑब्वियसली कुछ तो थॉट प्रोसेस गया। एंड आई बिलीव यही थॉट प्रोसेस लग रहा है कि हर किसी को वहां पे ढंग से देखे। फॉर एग्जाम्पल जेरी को जो मिला है, नंद कुमार को जो मिला है, he has not seen them much. जेरी का पहला नेशनल सीनियर टीम कैंप कॉल अप है। अंडर 23 स्टीफन के अंडर जेरी खेला था। सीनियर टीम है, दिस इज द फर्स्ट टाइम एज फार एज आई रिमेम्बर। आई मे बी रॉन्ग, मे बी एक बार कॉल अप आया था, आई डोंट रिमेम्बर, फील सो ही नीड्स टू हैव ए लुक एट दोस प्लेयर्स। थोड़ी सी लुकिंग एट द स्क्वाड, okay, maybe one omission, two omissions, but that will always stay.
एग्जैक्टली ये बात है। और मेरे को भी ये लगता है कि क्योंकि आपने जैसे बोला कि नेक्स्ट आगे आने टाइम में इंटरकॉन्टिनेंटल कप के बाद साफ कप है, फिर आप मर्दे का खेलने वाले हो, फिर आप किंग्स कप है, फिर आपका एशियन गेम्स है, फिर वर्ल्ड कप क्वालिफायर्स है। तो आई थिंक ये जो आपने सही बोला कि जो 41 और एक दो जैसे हमारे फर्नांडिस साहब है, उनका जो एक्सक्लूजन एक थोड़ा सा पर्सनल रीजन की वजह से हुआ है। तो मान लीजिए कि 45 प्लेयर मान के चलिए, तो आई थिंक उसमें से वो कट डाउन करना चाहता है। मेरे को लगता है कि एक एक कॉम्पिटिशन में धीरे धीरे मतलब वो देखेगा कि किस प्लेयर को। आई थिंक जो एएफसी एशियन कप के लिए है, आई थिंक वो मोर ऑफ अ सिमिलर इसी जो बंच ऑफ प्लेयर है, आई थिंक इसी में से मिलेगा। आपको क्या लगता है? आई थिंक
हाँ, इसके बाहर आपकी प्लेयर्स है नहीं। आप एशियन गेम्स खेलने जाओगे तो 23 में हु फिट्स इन, दैट्स द मेन क्वेश्चन, बिकॉज 23 में अभी प्लेयर्स फिट इन करवाना मुश्किल होगा, मींस अंडर 23 में, because the guys who played under 20 in I believe is the same squad. कट ऑफ डेट हमें याद नहीं है, जो कि रहीम अली, दीपक टांगरी, नरेंद्र, इन लोग का बैच ही शायद एशियन गेम्स खेलने जाएगा। If that is the case, कुछ प्लेयर्स को उसमें ऐड हो सकता है। फॉर एग्जांपल दीपक टांगरी कैन बी इन द स्क्वाड। He had played an brilliant under 20 चैंपियनशिप जब खेले थे हम लोग, अंडर 22 खेले थे, सॉरी, दुबई में। Kind of plays. A bit surprised to see Vikram Pratap Singh missing out, because it's a 41 members.
विक्रम प्रताप सिंह है यहाँ पे, है विक्रम प्रताप सिंह है मिडफील्ड
Oh,
में।
sorry, I missed out. My apologies, I missed out. उसमें है, विक्रम है। I missed out. So he's there. He's there. He needs to be in the squad because 41 member squad है. Otherwise, कोई आपका notable omissions other than Brandon नहीं है, which is for personal reasons, understandable. हाँ, at least ये Igor का एक this is good quality. Whoever performs has got a call up from Coach Dimash.
Exactly.
Each and every time. So people cannot complain that he only looks at a set of players, so one set of players, and not willing to look beyond it. So we need to credit him always, because whoever performs, for example, Jerry and Nanda Kumar are there in the squad.
रहीम अली का थोड़ा सा स्ट्राइकर में अगर हम देखें, क्योंकि स्ट्राइकर में हमारे साथ ऑलवेज स्कैरसिटी रही है कि उतने ज्यादा हमारे पास ऑप्शन नहीं रहते हैं, तो यहाँ पे अगर आप प्रॉपर स्ट्राइकर में देखें तो शिवा शक्ति, रहीम अली, ईशान पंडिता, तीनों यंगस्टर यहाँ पे इंक्लूड किया। और रहीम अली का आई थिंक जो हीरो सुपर कप में चेन्नई एनएफसी भले ही क्वालिफाई नहीं की हो सेमीफाइनल में, लेकिन उन्होंने भाई अच्छे, मतलब वो आप बोल सकते हैं सर कि उन्होंने अच्छा एक वो दिखाया था कि भाई हाँ, एक जो मतलब जो आपके पास ऑलरेडी जो ऑप्शन है, शिवा शक्ति है या फिर सुनील सर है या फिर ईशान पंडित है, उससे एक अलग तरह का गेम प्ले उसने दिखाया, जिस तरह से हेडिंग क्वालिटी है उसकी और शॉट्स क्वालिटी है। तो आई थिंक उसके ऊपर आपका क्या मानना है, जो नंबर 9 स्ट्राइकर की पोजीशन पे जो सिलेक्शन किया है?
देखिए, आई रेट रहीम अली वेरी हाईली। बहुत सारे लोग एंड फैंस में भी बोलेगा कि ये क्या बोल रहा है। आई रेट रहीम अली वेरी हाईली बिकॉज रहीम अली खेलता है सुनील को कॉम्प्लीमेंट करने के लिए, जो जे लाल पे क्लुआ करता था, एक टाइम पे बाईचुंग भूटिया करता था, एक टाइम पे रॉबिन सिंह कुछ दिनों के लिए के फिर जे किया। समवन who does have the strength can hold on to the ball to allow Sunil to go into the spaces. इस इंडियन टीम में द पावर ऑफ रहीम अली, जो ग्रोइन पावर होता है एक कोई भी प्लेयर का, that's the best, I would say. Arunava is here. Welcome, Arunava. We are speaking about Rahim Ali. So and his strength is immense. Maybe he has not got that many chances, उनको मिला नहीं है अभी तक सामने खेलने के लिए मनवीर सुनील खेलते हुए. So despite his performances, he was the guy to go to. And I don't see that much of a surprise, Rahim Ali coming into the squad. And if he's fit, I think obviously Rahim will walk into the squad of the AFC Asian Cup 2019. He complements Sunil very well. He's a very physical guy with a sudden burst of speed. Shots बहुत अच्छा है, fearless है. And in front of the goal, he can go to any extent to get the ball in. Needs fine tuning, obviously. But Rahim's a much better option than many, and I've been a big fan of this guy, and he has got the exposure since the under-17 days, knows what to do and how to play, and also adapt to the situation much more than many other players.
और हमारे साथ अरुणवा सर जुड़ चुके हैं। हेलो सर, वेलकम बैक टू दी चैनल अगेन। सर, आपसे पहला थॉट्स जानना चाहूंगा। आई थिंक आपने भी स्कोर देख ली होगी, 41 मेंबर की स्कोर। तो व्हाट्स योर फर्स्ट रिएक्शन अबाउट दिस 41 मेंबर स्कोर? और आपको क्या लगता है कि कुछ ज्यादा ही, मतलब 41 थोड़ा सा ज्यादा नंबर तो लगता ही है। आपका क्या इसके बारे में ओपिनियन है? क्या ईगो स्ट्रीमिंग का इसके बिहाइंड थॉट क्या रहा होगा?
सी इतने ऑप्शंस कोच के लिए नहीं है ना. इफ यू लुक एट द नंबर 41, he could have picked 50 and then most probably he would have been done with everyone who deserves to currently be part of an India squad would have been picked. So therefore certain players have not played for a certain period of time. Certain players are coming back from injuries. Certain players have played a lot of matches. This season, some of the players have played with, including national team matches, about 35, 36 matches. So therefore, it's a good option for him to get close to a month. And maybe, I don't know, maybe Nilanjan knows more. Maybe he might decide to pick two squads in the sense of certain players being picked for the Intercontinental Cup and other players picked for the SAF Cup. So that way, giving as many boys as possible exposure. I'm very happy to see Vikram Pratap getting a call, Nanda Kumar, Jerry finally getting a call. So those guys deserving. Interesting to see how he sets the midfield. He's got a lot of options. But I think it's now the time for him to settle in on a Puya and whatever differences there were between the coach and the player, to sort those things out and to bank on him. I think he's our best central midfielder at the moment. Exactly. So therefore, defense, there's the one or the other surprise. I'm surprised with Glenn Martins getting a call.
Yes,
So I was not. Again, he did have a few good games towards the end of the ISL, but otherwise, unexpected lines, I would say.
जैसे ही सर आप जुड़े, आपके लिए राउंड ग्लास पंजाब का क्वेश्चन आ चुका है कि स्टेडियम एंड ट्रांसफर अपडेट.
At the moment, nothing, because still not 100% confirmed if they're going to play ISL or not. So as long as that is not sorted between Ranglas Punjab and FSPL, I think they will not be announcing any sort of transfers or any other information. Oh, सबसे biggest task around last year, to confirm as per ISL guidelines, which are tougher than the AFC club licensing. So therefore, let's see. I think they should qualify.
मैं अभी वही चेक कर रहा था कल कि एएफसी के क्या क्राइटेरिया होते हैं क्लब लाइसेंसिंग के, क्योंकि उन्होंने भी हर साल वो उसमें इंप्रूव करते जाते हैं. तो काफी टफ है, थोड़े से टफ तो है, मतलब अगर क्योंकि उसकी आई थिंक इन्वेस्टमेंट उसमें ज्यादा चाहिए. नीलंजन सर, आपसे जानना चाहूंगा कि इस स्क्वाड में आपके लिए आपको किस प्लेयर को देख के लगा कि भाई हाँ ये बेस्ट जैसे सर ने बोला विक्रम प्रताप सिंह को होना चाहिए था, उसी तरह से आपको इस स्क्वाड में किस प्लेयर को देख के लगा कि भाई हाँ इसका कॉल अप बनता था इस स्क्वाड में, और एक ऐसा प्लेयर की जिसको देख के आपको लगा कि भाई इसका मेरे को थोड़ा सा ये समझ में नहीं आया कि इसको क्यों कॉल अप किया गया?
Rahul KP in the squad had a good under-22 championship in Dubai. As I was Arunava आने से पहले बोल रहा था, I would have loved to see Deepak Tangri in the squad. मैं उतना squad को ढंग से देखा नहीं. I believe Deepak's not
there.
नहीं दीपक Tangri नहीं है, injured. अच्छा.
Injured. He's been injured for a long while. He's still not recovered, Nilanjan.
Yes, my apologies for that. My apologies for that. I am not aware of that injury. So maybe that's the reason Deepak's not there. But it's more or less a very, very predictable squad. It's more or less a very, very predictable squad. Good additions in the form of Jerry Nandakumar getting a call back. Rahul KP and Vikram, the two players and options on the wings, because we have not been kind of हम लोग creative नहीं हो पाया wings पे, both despite Manveer and Udanta being there, which had been our strength during the previous coach. Halicharan and Udanta in prime. So that way there are more options on the two wings.
निखिल पुजारी का आई थिंक एक इन्होंने तो मिडफील्ड में डाला है, लेकिन आई थिंक मतलब हैदराबाद के लिए आई थिंक ज्यादातर वो राइट बैक ही खेला है, तो आई थिंक एज अ राइट बैक ही उसको एज ए ऑप्शन देखा जाएगा आई थिंक, क्योंकि आपके पास राहुल बेके डेफिनेटली है एंड आशीष राय. आई थिंक आशीष राय का भी इंक्लूजन क्योंकि हीरो ट्राई नेशन में नहीं था और जिस तरह का उसका भी सीजन रहा है. तो अरुणा सर, उसके बारे में क्या ख्याल है आपका आशीष राय? क्योंकि आई थिंक काफी सारे फैंस भी जब हीरो ट्राई नेशन में उसका जब इंक्लूजन नहीं हुआ था तो काफी ज्यादा सोशल मीडिया पे भी वो आया था कि भाई आशीष राय वन ऑफ दी, मतलब कंपेयर टू अगर आप राहुल बेके से देखें तो उसका बनता था. और ईगो स्टेमिक ने भी बाद में बोला था कि हाँ भाई आशीष राय है, उसको मतलब डेफिनेटली हम आगे भी ट्राई करेंगे.
Ashish Rai is one of the up-and-coming players, but on the other side, Rahul Beke is an established player. Of course, people will say he's done his mistakes. Certainly, he's done his mistakes. Potentially, Pritam Kotal is also still there. People don't talk about him. So therefore, but Pritam plays centre-back for ETK Mohun Bagan. And the national team is more of a right-back. So therefore, options hai coach ke liye, na? So he's also got Roshan, who can play on both wings, as a right or as a left back. So that is an option. Akash Mishra, I was watching some of the highlights from yesterday. So therefore, that's the thing. Again, as I said, he's called 41. He might have called up 50. And if he had called up 50, there would have been 9 other players that he could have called up, and that would have made because I'm just seeing someone asking Kian Nasiri ke bare mein.
Exactly.
Kian to me, very, very talented boy. I've played 5-a-sides with him in Kolkata, so I know that he's quite tricky and he's very, very good player. But he's not had enough minutes in the ISL, in my opinion. So therefore, I guess that the other players, even Ishan Pandita, did not have enough minutes. But of course, he already has a few international games under his belt. Therefore, I guess the coach has picked rather him than another player.
I think जो इस स्क्वाड में अगर हम देखें तो आई थिंक जो एक एरिया ऐसा है कि जहाँ पे मतलब आई थिंक मतलब एक आप बोल सकते हैं कि हमारी स्ट्रॉन्ग है वो है गोलकीपर्स। चारों ही गोलकीपर्स देख लीजिए, और चारों का अगर आप सीजन भी देख लीजिए, पूरा सीजन 2023 22-23 वाला, तो एक वो मतलब एक परफेक्ट सीजन रहा है। चाहे हम गुरप्रीत सिंह संधू का ले लीजिए या फिर विशाल कैद का ले लीजिए, अमरिंदर सर का ले लीजिए, फुरबाली चेपना का ले लीजिए। निलंजन सर, आप ये कीपर्स के बारे में, क्योंकि इंडिया नाउ हैज ए वेरी वेरी यू कैन से लॉन्ग लिस्ट ऑफ कीपर की जो मतलब अच्छा कर रहे हैं। आप सभी इसको जो आप आईएसएल टीम्स भी ले लीजिए, उसमें भी जो मोस्ट ऑफ द कीपर्स आर मतलब इंडियन ही है सारे।
I थोड़ी से डिफर करूंगा, not of the very highest caliber, but yeah, they have been doing well and improving. Keepers ka to means at least Gurpreet and Amrinder are always there, number one and number two or number one, whoever it is. Those two guys obviously deserve to be there and will be there. And the third slot ke liye obvious, there would be stiff competition between the other two. Yahan pe jo hai. But the standard of goalkeeping has been very inconsistent. If you ask me, very inconsistent than what it used to be. There have been goalkeepers who have let clubs down at a consistent basis, on a consistent basis, only to come up with a kind of out of the skin performance the next day. So that consistency in domestic football hasn't been there as far as goalkeepers each and every day is concerned. And that includes names of everyone. I do not want to pinpoint names out there. So that consistency, because a goalkeeper makes a team, a goalkeeper breaks a team. And that consistency hasn't been there. And the other point is, if you look at 2019, moving ahead to, because the eventual aim is the squad is being built for the 2024 Qatar Asian Cup. 2019 in the build-up, Gurpreet was kind of unbeatable. He was a kind of a superhuman being under the bar for India. In fact, pushed the then number one Subroto Paul to the number two. Subroto eventually couldn't find a place in the AFC Asian Cup UAE squad. But this time it's the form of Gurpreet, because India in whatever the draw is on 11th of May 11th, we would be defending most of the time, despite whatever squad we carry out to be out there. So Gurpreet or Amrinder, I believe one of them would be playing, or the goalkeepers are the most vital cog in the wheel. And whatever happens is they need to have very good practice facilities and good practice training schedule regime, both at the club level and both at the international level for the national team level, at a very, very high consistency level that needs to be done. Unless that's done, we only hope on fear that the inconsistency should not be creeping into the goalkeepers out there. Because at the international level, at the club level, there are foreigners and other players who can pull a goal back. At the international level, if something happens, any day it can happen to any goalkeeper. But as it's happening each and every day, almost each and every day or every alternate day, the goalkeepers need to be practicing out of this means like anything which they do. And the quality of coaching is most important rather than the attitude of the goalkeepers. Needs to be totally immaculate.
मैं अनुराग सर आपसे जानना चाहता हूँ, क्योंकि आपको भी पता है कि अब जब मॉडर्न फुटबॉल में, और जो अगर हम यूरोप में देखें, तो अब जो गोलकीपर से जो मतलब बॉल प्लेइंग गोलकीपर से उसको मतलब जो टॉप टीमें है वो ज्यादा प्रेफरेंस दे रही है, रादर देन अगर आप शॉर्ट स्टॉपर देखें, जैसे हम अगर हम मैनचेस्टर यूनाइटेड का कीपर देखें और उसकी गलतियां अभी रिसेंट टाइम्स में देखें, और उसके सामने अगर हम जो बॉल प्लेइंग सेंटर सॉरी गोलकीपर से उनको देखें, तो आपको क्या लगता है कि जो इंडिया के जो भी ये जितने भी कीपर है, इसमें वो क्वालिटीज कहीं ना कहीं जो बॉल प्लेइंग वाली है वो अभी भी कम देखती है? क्योंकि बार बार जब भी हमने जितना भी मैंने तो अभी देखा है, सभी जो जैसे ही कीपर के पास बॉल आती है वो सीधा मतलब क्या बोलते हैं पास की जगह पे लॉन्ग बॉल का ही ऑप्शन देखते हैं। तो ये जो शिफ्ट हो रहा है मॉडर्न फुटबॉल में, उसको आप किस तरह से देखते हैं, और हमारे इंडियन फुटबॉल के पर्सपेक्टिव से कैसे देखते हैं?
It will take time, Nilanjan.
आई थिंक सर का थोड़ा सा वो इश्यू हो गया है। आपका क्या ख्याल है सर इसके बारे में? ओके आ चुके हैं वापस।
Is Arunava back?
हाँ वो थोड़ा सा कैमरा सेट कर रहे हैं सर।
Okay, lovely. Then we wait. That's Arunava.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
So Nilanjan said very, very rightly consistency. 2019, Gurpreet Singh Sandhu, top of his game. Go back 2011, Subrata Paul, top of his game. If Subrata was not as good as he was, we would have lost by double digits to Australia and to South Korea. Very, very honestly. At the moment, we have these four. You can add most probably one or two more goalkeepers to the list. We don't have an outstanding goalkeeper at the moment. If you're talking about playing goalkeepers, I think the best example at the moment is Marc-Andre ter Stegen at Barca. I think that's most probably the best playing goalkeeper, because that's sort of that German Manuel Neuer style of football. I don't see anyone amongst the Indian goalkeepers, even at youth level of that. I'd say most of the world doesn't have it. So India mein aane se, it's very difficult to make that, comparison, of course, when you're trying to compare. Because if I'm talking about ball playing players, and I was having yesterday an own sort of podcast with Renedy, and we were discussing this. And Nilanjan knows, Nilanjan has been around long enough that at the moment, our players are physically better, they're physically fitter, they're taller, they're stronger. But it seems the technical abilities, there's a problem.
Exactly.
Yeah. At youth level, we seem to be competing with the Europeans. People are going gaga about this 3-3 against Real Madrid. I have seen over the years Tata Football Academy coming to Germany, beating Bayer Leverkusen or FC Cologne. Under 17 in 2002 played a 3-3 against FC Cologne with Lukas Podolski in the squad. Under 16 preparation for the World Cup, beat Bayer Leverkusen, won against RB Leipzig, lost unluckily against Salzburg. So there are multiple examples, of these kind of things. But the next step of development, that is what is missing now.
Very right.
So that's a real problem, and that's a problem. If coaches don't mind, at youth level we have to do much more. At youth level, our coaches have to be better. Randy was giving an example yesterday to me, saying, "Ab tak bhi bolta hai bhai, bhago, bhago, bhago." Those days are gone, but that is what our players can play. Sadly, but he said it, and it's a sad reality. And if you even ask Igor Stimac talks a lot about possession football, and I understand him because he comes from a Croatian thought of football. Croatia's football is amongst the best in the world. If you see their players, Modric in the past, Rakitic, all these guys are Igor Stimac's generation, Robert Prozinecki, brilliant ball players. We really have that kind of a technical player of that class. But I, for example, like what Apuya has been learning. Apuya has been improving. Apuya was not a starting player of the Under-17 World Cup. He was a fringe player.
Player, exactly.
So he has developed the most. Amarjit Kiam is not part of the East Bengal A team. He's part of the East Bengal B team, is not even playing for them regularly. And he was the captain of that squad originally. So therefore, there are different levels of development. And if you're asking our players to play a kind of football, it's going to be difficult. And again, I go back to what Randy was telling me yesterday. Was very, very clear. He said, listen, East Bengal had certain set of players, had 3 matches. We were losing by 4 or 5 goals. My intention was to block at the back, shut shop, right? So therefore, you have to see who are you playing, who are you facing. We will play big nations in the Asian Cup. We will be exposed. This is not going to be Bangladesh, or it's not going to be Nepal. This is going to be a different level.
सभी हायर रैंकिंग ही आएगी, क्योंकि हम 4th स्पॉट पे हैं. तो जो तीनों टीमें आएंगी हमारे ग्रुप में, वो हमारे से हायर रैंकिंग आएगी. मैं उसी में आने वाला था जो अरुणा सर आपने Under-17 के बारे में बोला कि कल 3-3 ड्रॉ से मतलब हम सब में ऐसा लगने लगा है कि भाई हमारी Under-17 टीम क्या ही है. तो आप दोनों से मैं पहले जानना चाहूंगा. पहले नीलंजन सर, आप बताइए कि ये जो जिस स्क्वाड ने कल खेला है, जिस रियल मैड्रिड टीम के सामने 4 साल बाद, अगर हम कंपैरिजन करेंगे, वही रियल मैड्रिड के जो ये Under-17 वाले प्लेयर थे, उसका ट्रेजेक्टरी और हमारे Under-17 प्लेयर का ट्रेजेक्टरी में, ये मैंने सिमिलर सा तब भी बोला था जब हमने एटलेटिको मैड्रिड के जो Under-17 को भी हराया, कि उनका 4 साल बाद आप प्रोग्रेशन देखना और हमारा प्रोग्रेशन देखना, आपको जमीन आसमान का अंतर दिख जाएगा कि भाई कहाँ पे सेम प्लेयरों ने मतलब इसके सामने ड्रॉ खेला है या फिर जीता है, जो भी किया है। तो इसका मेन रीजन क्या लगता है सर आपको? नीलंजन सर पहले आपसे जानना चाहूंगा, फिर अरुण सर आपका पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू जानना चाहूंगा कि यूरोप में किस तरह से वो 17 से 21 के साल में क्या होता है सर।
देखिए, ट्रांजिशन फेज में हम लोग को अंडर 16 स्क्वाड्स जो अरुणव मेंशन कर रहा था, बहुत सारे टैलेंटेड स्क्वाड्स निकल गया। आप 2001 2002 में जो यन रश ट्रॉफी हम लोग जीते थे स्टीफन के अंडर, 2002-3 हाँ, बोताफोगो को हम लोग हराए थे फाइनल में। हाँ, अब दोनों टीम का ट्रैजेक्टरी देखे, वो लोग यूरोप में और वर्ल्ड कप खेल लिए, हम लोग कहाँ थे, हम लोग नहीं कर पाए। इफ यू लुक एट 2011 ऑनवर्ड्स भी आप देखिए, अंडर 16 में हाउ मेनी प्लेयर्स ऑफ द अंडर 16 बैच जो प्रॉमिस दिखाए हैव गॉन ऑन टू प्ले फॉर द नेशनल टीम इन दैट कैपेसिटी। आप 2011 में ताशकेंट में जो स्क्वाड क्वालिफाई किए थे, उसमें से सिर्फ डैनियल लालिमपुया एंड सार्थक गोलोई इंडिया खेला है। बोथ ऑफ देम have very minimal chance of making a comeback right now as per their form is concerned. That team had a player called Lalram Zuava, who was the captain, the central midfielder. What a player! What a player! Alan Diori, what a player! Engine up down. But Suprotim, there was a goalkeeper, a Bengali goalkeeper. Kahan hai pata nahi. So all of them have faded away. If you go back to the next batch of Anirudh Thapa and Gautam Ghosh ke under, Anirudh Thapa and Jerry Lalrinzuala made it to the final, to the national team. Jerry faded out. Thapa is still a kind of a yes, no, not a regular starter. And after that, the World Cup squad, which has got the maximum exposure, how many of those boys have made it to the senior squad? How many?
4 to 5.
You'll be counting. Anwar Ali, what do you say? Amarjeet for a very brief period. Suresh and Apuya, and Rahim Ali to some extent.
Rahim Ali now.
Rahim Ali now. So where are the other players? So that's been the means the bone of contention, and the best, most talented batch was what Gautam had. Guys like Nuruddin, Prashanjit, Nijam Muchahari. Those guys were brilliant with the ball, off the ball, brilliant. But the transition phase में under 19 से, the moment they get the money, which is kind of totally weird kind of money, आपका जो बच्चा को महीने में 9,000 10,000 रुपया स्टाइपेंड मिलता था AIF एकेडमी में, उस बच्चे को आप दे रहे हो पूरी 6 लाख की कॉन्ट्रैक्ट, जो टोटल 30-40 हजार का जो मिलता था इधर 25, 30, 40, 5 लाख पूरी साल में, उस बच्चे को आप दे रहे हो 40 लाख 50 लाख। मोटिवेशन क्या? He is not played for India at all. So all those thought process of मैं बाहर जाके खेलूंगी. You speak to this under 17 बैच जो करंट खेल रहे, सभी लोग कल आपको बोलेंगे हमको बाहर खेलना है। एक साल बाद क्या करेगा? ISL में बेंच में बैठ के एक दिन लाल बाल, एक दिन नील बाल, एक दिन लाल जूता, दूसरे दिन काला जूता, तीसरे दिन दोनों पैर में 2 कलर की जूता। 3 साल बैठा रहेगा, सोशल मीडिया में यो करेगा, कहानी खत्म। He was a talented guy. यही that's the transition phase administratively and technically which we need to address. Otherwise, it will be the same story over and over again. जो अरुणावा बोल रहा था, TFA batches were sublime. They have played for India. TFA, the amount of talent which TFA has given us, the 2 best defenders and the best goalkeeper, Subroto Paul, even Gurpreet was a TFA product. Surkumar, Mahesh Gauli, the greatest ever defender since Nilanjan Bhattacharya, Deepak Mondal. And then the others are not going. आप backline ही देख लीजिए। तो यहाँ पे उस प्लेयर्स का जो डेवलपमेंट होना था, जहां पे उनको पहुंचना था, they have played India, our heroes. They haven't been able to, despite all their efforts. So that's the process which needs to be done. Arunava would be better placed to be letting all of us know how it's done at the European level and what we need to done from there.
I'll take one example. 2002, India under 17, as part of its preparation for the Asian Cup, came to Germany. I'd organized a camp with the help of the German Federation, first ever Indian youth camp in Europe. The squad, Subroto Pal was in, Gaurav Mangi Singh was in the squad. And there was this player, small little boy from Mizoram, Chota Mama usko bolte the, Malswama, exceptional player.
Exception.
He played the under-16s FC Cologne, and a certain Lucas Podolski scored 2 goals against us in a 3-3. Malswama or Chota Mama was the best player on the field. 2002. 2014, Lucas Podolski, world champion with Germany. Chota Mama leaves TFA, joins Mohun Bagan. Minimal game time. Serious knee injury, joins Mohammedan Sporting. Never recovers. 3 or 4 years later, the boy goes back to Mizoram. This is pre-Mizoram Premier League days. That he goes and plays for Mizoram Police because it gives him a job. And I would have to research, I would have to ask Tete what this boy is doing now. Just to give you a comparison of how Europeans develop their talent. Lucas Podolski, about 15 months after playing us, debuted in the second Bundesliga for Cologne. A year later was a Bundesliga player for Cologne. He went to the Euros in 2004. He and Schweinsteiger went in 2004 as teenagers to the Euros. Our problem is what Nilanjan said, and I actually did a tweet earlier today about this. And I just want to quote that tweet, just to explain to you my thought process. Multiple times I've seen our Indian youth teams get good results in friendlies against top European clubs. But the talent we show at 15 to 17 years does not translate into a more at senior level. The transition period from youth to senior needs to be addressed. Biggest problem, 16 to 21. For example, this season, I think a good step, a good effort is this Reliance Foundation Development League. It's a good step because all the bench players of the ISL, not all, but most bench players of the ISL who are in the age group are getting match time. We did an under-17 tournament, but our problem has been that we do an under-13, under-15, under-18 in the past, where I have always suggested to the technical people within the aiff, do 17 and 19. I know 4 teams might be calling a stretch, but that 17 and under-19 level competition is needed in India because you're asking 15, 16, 17-year-olds to transition from youth to senior. It's too early. And Nilanjan said a very, very important point that especially the Indian Arrows, which was a great idea of Bob Houghton and Colin Toll and was lovely implemented. If we see JJ, Dika, Gurpreet Singh Sandhu, Raju Gaikwad, Shilton,
Pritam Kotal, Narayan Das,
Pranay Haldar, yes, all of them. Probida,
Holicharan Narzari.
All of them are actually a product of this Arrows program. That's why I always said, whatever the problem supposedly was with finances and all, that's a different topic. But the idea of having these boys play as a team in the I-League is a level of exposure they will never get because most of these boys are disappearing. A player I loved when I first saw him for the Indian juniors, Rohit Danu. Rohit Danu is going to make a switch from Hyderabad to another club. But the question is, how much of playing time does Rohit Danu get? Now, going abroad is a different thing. In 2019, we had an opportunity to send a player to Viking Stavanger. And there were conversations with at least 5-6 players. Are you interested to go to Stavanger? In the end, it was Changte who went for the 2-week training and trial over there. Most of the other players, I'm not going to name the players, most of players who were part of the India setup, they were not interested. India छोड़ के बाहर क्यों जाएंगे भाई? इतना पैसा मिल रहा है, social media में star हुए, why would they go? That is another problem.
Exactly.
This dream of saying that players are going to go abroad is not going to happen because for the standard of football that Indian football has, our players are the most overpaid in the world.
Exactly.
Players, I mean, Greg Stewart leaves Glasgow Rangers to join Jamshedpur and then Mumbai City because he's getting more money in Mumbai than he's getting in Glasgow.
Glasgow, exactly.
And they were in the UEFA Europa League last year final. So these are reality, and these are problems, and no one is addressing them. There's a lot of talk.
ये तो अरुणव सर, ये तो जो हमारे एफसी गोवा के जो अमित टंडन साहब है, उन्होंने भी कुछ महीने पहले ये ट्वीट करके सारा बताया था कि भाई जो इंडियन प्लेयरों की स्किल सेट लेवल है 2014 में जब आईएसएल स्टार्ट हुआ, तब से अब में कोई उतना ज्यादा कोई फर्क नहीं आ गया है कि भाई एक्सेप्शनल बन चुके हैं, लेकिन जो सैलरी लेवल है वो 2014
it is worse.
हाँ.
If I say again, no disrespect to the players, but if I see the technical ability of the 2011 Asian Cup squad and look at the squad and look at today's team and their technical abilities, then the 2011 squad was much higher when it comes to technical abilities. They were physically not as strong. They did not have the diet. They did not have all that professionalism that these boys have. But the problem is, a lot of boys actually can't play a pass for 30 yards, 40 yards, can't chip a ball out.
और सर एक आप जो करंट स्क्वाड में है उनको तो मतलब चलो आए ही यूरोप से ऑफर, एक दो तो हमने न्यूज भी सुनी थी कि इनको मतलब जे लीग से भी आए हैं, यूरोप से भी एक दो प्लेयरों को आए थे.
कुछ नहीं है. That's a story by agent. Sorry to break that myth, right?
Okay.
Because not to sound arrogant, but whenever someone is trying to bring players to Europe, I am in some sort of form of way involved, or I'm doing it myself. Players are not interested. I know that one or two clubs are saying yes, but again, I give a lot of credit to Sunil Chhetri when he went to the US and to Portugal. Sunil was on the minimal wage at Sporting Lisbon. Yeah, Sunil Chhetri played with players like Eric Dyer, Bruma, and all these guys who've gone on to play for their respective national teams. And Sunil had to realize that all of these boys are better than me, sadly.
And none of them had played international football, while Sunil was the captain of the national team.
लेकिन जो सर जो नए भी जो बच्चे आ रहे हैं, जो मतलब आपने जैसे बोला अंडर 17 या फिर 18 के एक दो प्लेयरों के साथ मेरी बात हुई थी, उनका भी मतलब जो फोकस है वो आईएसएल ही है. मतलब अगर उनको भी मतलब ये आपने सही बोला कि वो भी वही चूज कर रहे हैं कि आईएसएल ही हमें करना है, हमें यूरोप में.
But Harry, very simple. If most of the boys come from
middle class or level,
humble backgrounds, if you're giving the player, as Nilanjan said, 40-50 lakhs, that 40-50 lakhs is not only for the player, but it's for the whole family a lot of money. That's a reality. We should not discard this. And again, it's not a question of ambition. If you would ask every 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20-year-old Indian boy who plays football, national team bhi khel raha hai, what do you want to do? They will say, I want to play in Europe. But jab reality aata hai na, when they're 17, 18, 19, those contracts are offered. Because they know in Europe, minimum wage, it's just about surviving in Europe. You are no superstar over here. Ask Gurpreet Singh Sandhu. He spent cold winters in Norway. Great respect what Gurpreet did. Sunil Chhetri, what he did. Even Baichung Bhutia jab gaye the na. Very, very tough times in Bury, Baichung had. Or I also myself, at the end of his career, na, Randy ko CSK Sofia le gaya. Because Randy said, you know what, I have one dream. बाहर में कब at least training या trial करना है. ठीक है, चलो करते हैं. Through our friend Nuno and I helped him. जाओ चलो Bulgaria जाता है. And Randy said, wow, the standard much higher. And Bulgaria is not the Bulgaria they used to be 15, 20, 30 years ago when they had the Stoichkovs and the Balakovs and all those players. So reality मानना Indian football में सबसे बड़ा problem क्या होता है मेरे हिसाब से, people don't want to accept reality.
Exactly.
Everyone is trying to sell dreams, and that is certain people tried to sell reality or talk about realities, but no one wants to listen to them, and that's why certain people have been kicked out of certain positions over the years of certain things. No? Because that's the real problem.
हाँ निरंजन सर, कल मेरे को ये सेम क्वेश्चन किसी ने पूछा था कि क्या इसमें एएफएफ ऐसा कुछ नहीं कर सकता कि भाई इंडियन प्लेयरों की सैलरी है उसके ऊपर कुछ क्या बोलते हैं कि लिमिट या ऐसा कुछ, मतलब ऐसा कुछ हो सकता है क्या कि जो ये मतलब
देखिए
सैलरीज,
सैलरी कैप तो है, बट सैलरी
सैलरी
कैप
की तो है।
कौन मान रहा है? जो क्लब्स के ऑफिशियल्स बोलते हैं कि अरे सैलरीज बढ़ गया है, बट यू आर ऑल्सो पार्ट ऑफ द सेम क्लाउड जहां पे आप लोगों को ले रहे हो. I do not want to name any official. Many an official on social media say we are not supporting this high salary. But when you, as per your convenience, you rope a player as to the salary in which you want to give it to him. It's as simple as that. तो आप आज केटल को ब्लैक कहते हो, but खुद ही हो. तो no one can escape this thing, and it's only there can be a dialogue कि भाई आप इतनी मत दो, because you are giving. For example, नाम नहीं लूंगा, एक defender some years back got almost 1.75 crore contract with a club. He is not a regular anymore, and by that time he had not even played a single match for Indian national team. Good promising defender at the club level, अच्छा खेला था, tough था. What is his motivation then? If you look at the 90s, 80s, 70s, सभी का मोटिवेशन था हमें बैच मिलेगा, इंडिया खेलेंगे. आप इंडिया खेलने से पहले आप 2 crore rupees ले रहे हो, मीन्स यू आर बीइंग पेड. Absolutely, why not? आप 4 crore मिले आपको, but where's your ambition? Where are you improving yourself as a player? Improvement as a player, technically, people do not give time for that. They are going to the gym, थोड़ी सी फिटनेस लेते हैं, डाइट रेजिम हो गया है, इट्स काइंड ऑफ कॉपिंग समवन, बट ठीक है, ओके, लवली, फेयर इनफ. You have improved to a certain level, but there's also the other part which you need to look up to and improve yourself on. जो people do not do. Give very small example. बहुत लोगों को मैं प्रैक्टिस में बोलता था कि यू आर राइट फुटेड प्लेयर when you are playing those cat and mouse. आप राइट फुट इस्तेमाल ही मत करो, आप लेफ्ट फुट इस्तेमाल करो. People do not do it. I'm just giving a very small example. Don't want to tell names. Okay, you are a left footer. You use the right foot only to stand on the pitch. When you are playing that cat and mouse, or when you're juggling the ball in practice, not the final practice, use the right foot or the weak foot. No one used to do. People used to say, "Dada, बात तो सही है, कल से करेंगे दादा, बिल्कुल सही बोले." What do you say? Me not being a coach can tell them, but it's up to them.
I have another example. This gym topic. 2014 Mumbai City mein, one of our biggest players tells the Indian players, "You've done more gym in a day compared to what I do a whole month," and that guy has won the Champions League. Sorry, played in the Champions League, not regular in the Champions League, not won it. And that's the problem. If you see also on social media, there's been this challenge that a certain captain of ours has started, shirtless, topless. Yeah.
I think
so the problem is these are the basic problems that we have. And again, I'll be honest, when I was at Mumbai City, I was building a team for success in the ISL, and I was building a team to win in the first season. So our problem is, again, that this has to be understood, that the interest of the AIF and the interest of the clubs are different. The interest of the AIF is, first of all, to see national teams, senior and junior level, men's and women's. The club has to see that they are successful in the next coming season. I think Nilanjan and I have been part of these discussions on regard to East Bengal over the last few weeks. Yeah, East Bengal is a prime example. Does East Bengal care about the success of India at international level? No, they don't, because it's not their problem. It's not their issue. It should be, but it's not. It's also the same thing. Why do you have the problem of club versus country regard to players, fitness, ye, wo, we? Even in Europe, why do they sometimes fake injuries and say, "Bhai, national team mein aao, dikhao, doctor ko dikhao, injury hai ya nahi hai?" Because the club doctor says, "Bhai, injury hai." So therefore,
वो तो यूरोप में भी दिखता है.
It happens everywhere, and therefore that is the general problem that there is. That the interest of a club is a different interest than the interest of a federation and a national team. But the clubs need to understand the growth of Indian football. The driver of the growth of Indian football will be the Blue Tigers, our national team. That has to be, but that is how do you get it? A coach at a club does not think is player ko more time dena hai na. When at the start of the season, Sana was not playing at Hyderabad. Nindorji was playing as centre back. Manolo Marquez, one of the best managers in the history of the ISL, he's not thinking about what Igor Stimac needs or doesn't need. He's thinking Hyderabad has to win. So therefore, there are also different interest levels that are there, and it's very difficult. That's why young player career path decision making. That's why the agent's job is also very, very crucial. But the problem is, again, I fully understand the players. If you see that kind of money, you want to leave. It happened. It happens. Multiple players left. For example, the Indian Arrows 1 year too early because the money AIF is paying is non-existent. But for your development, ek aur saal, Indian Arrows would have been good for many, many players. And that is the problem that you have. And it's not again, Indian problem nahi hai. Everywhere in the world.
मैं सर आपसे जानना चाहता हूँ, आपने 2-3 दिन पहले आई थिंक वो ट्वीट किया था रिगार्डिंग बायर्न म्यूनिक ने कुछ ग्रास रूट के लिए या फिर यूथ के लिए कोई प्रोग्राम निकाला है, उसमें इंडियन फुटबॉल उससे सीख सकते हैं. वो एग्जैक्टली क्या था कि क्या इंडियन फुटबॉल उससे जो बायर्न म्यूनिक ने जो एग्जैक्टली वो निकाला है उसके बारे में.
So Bayern Munich has started a program during COVID, which is the FC Bayern World Squad. Which was intended to be a project, an under 17 or under 19 project later on, with players from around the world being able to join a world squad from all over the world. Shubho Paul was part of the squad actually in the original, former India junior, who's part of Sudheva Delhi. And Shubho is a very good example. Shubho's lost his Instagram account like 4 times. 4-digit or 5-digit follower hai, lekin, that's part of the problem, na? So what Bayern did is, again, Shubho from India, there were players from Japan, from Korea, from Eastern Europe, even from smaller teams in Germany, from South America, from the US, from Canada. They took players from around the world, put them together under Klaus Augenthaler, 1990 World Cup winner, a coach who's coached in the Bundesliga, coached in youth system as well, with one of the guys from the Bayern Academy. They trained them. They then in the end played the Bayern under 19s. First year में थोड़ा सा problem था because this is 2021, COVID thing चल रहा था इधर. Shubho couldn't be part of it. Last year they did the program again. And one of the players, Daniel, who's from Nigeria, was the captain of the team in year 1 and in year 2. He's now playing on loan from Bayern with a second division team in the second Bundesliga in Austria. So this program has already been a success. There's one player who's gone to Bayern's sister club, a player from Colombia, who's now a Colombia under-19 player, who's with the academy of FC Dallas. Now, what Bayern has done recently is that there's an American group which has come forward, International Soccer Academy, I think is the name, who have said, we will choose under 17 players, the best in the US. We will base that team in Munich. They will play as Bayern will integrate them somehow into that youth system over there in Germany as an international team. And the aim is, out of these 24, 25 boys, that 1 or 2 of these boys should make it to the Bayern under 19. Brilliant idea. But again, we're talking about the USA, a country which produces players like Christian Pulisic and others. Again, Pulisic joined Dortmund at 16. So all of this is possible because he had a European passport and all. But it is a program. Again, even the clubs are thinking out of the box. But for something like this to happen, India mein sponsorship lagega. ISL mein, there is money to some extent, yes, but everyone is losing money. But in grassroots, in youth development, the money is not there that is needed to do these programs. That is our biggest problem.
Exactly. नीलंजन सर, मैं आपसे जानना चाहता हूँ कि अभी कल ही यहाँ पे फीफा का भी जो टैलेंट डेवलपमेंट स्कीम है उसके डेलीगेट्स यहाँ पे आए हैं, तो और हमारे एएफएफ ने भी अभी जो हमारी एग्जीक्यूटिव कमेटी की मीटिंग हुई थी वहाँ पे ब्लू क्लब्स नाम से प्रोग्राम निकाला है, प्रोजेक्ट डायमंड करके प्रोग्राम निकाला है टू आइडेंटिफाई द एलिट प्लेयर्स इन ग्रास रूट लेवल से, मतलब जो उसकी यंग एज होती है 12-13 साल से, तब से ही वो स्काउट कर लेना। तो ये जो स्काउटिंग का आपको इंडियन फुटबॉल में के बारे में आपका क्या पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू है रिगार्डिंग द स्काउटिंग, और कितना ये इंपॉर्टेंट रोल प्ले करता है किसी भी प्लेयर को उस एज में स्काउट कर लेना, और ये जो प्रोग्राम फीफा का है उससे कितना ज्यादा इम्पैक्ट आपको लगता है कि पड़ सकता है, क्योंकि इसके हेड आई थिंक आर्सेन वेंगर है इस पूरे जो
पूरी सक्सेस ही स्काउटिंग के ऊपर डिपेंड करता है। कोई भी देश का सिर्फ फुटबॉल नहीं, एनी स्पोर्टिंग मींस कल्चर डेवलप करने और स्पोर्टिंग ग्लोरी के लिए आपको ढंग से स्काउट करना पड़ेगा। हमारा देश इज सच ए वास्ट कंट्री कि हम लोग बोलते रहते स्काउट्स लाओ स्काउट्स लाओ। इतनी बड़ी देश को 37 स्टेट्स को आप कितनी स्काउट से आप कर पाओगे? मेरी स्टेट बंगाल को आप कितनी पॉकेट्स में कितने स्काउट को आप दे पाएंगे? आपके पास उतनी पैसा है स्काउट्स को देने का? एब्सोल्युटली नॉट। सो स्काउट्स से मैं कहता हूं कि जो आपकी कोचेज है, आजकल बहुत सारे लाइसेंस कोचेस चारों तरफ है, हाँ, सो दे नीड टू बी the scouts of the national team and the country, because वो रेगुलर अपने एकेडमीज में प्लेयर्स को खिला रहा है। There needs to be kind of an incentive for them that if your guy comes on to play for India or is selected, आपको इतनी बोनस मिलेगा, आप खेल लिए तो 23 में स्क्वाड में आ गया तो इतना मिलेगा, खेल लिया तो इतने स्क्वाड आएगा, मिलेगा। Otherwise, unless there's a financial kind of what do you say incentive for people won't be doing it. मैं आपको छोटी एक एग्जांपल दे रहा हूँ। Some years back I had heard of a project जहाँ पे बंगाल में बहुत सारे फॉर्मर प्लेयर्स को बोला गया था कि आप स्काउटिंग करो। This was not a federation project, a different project. हाँ, कि आप लोग स्काउटिंग करें। Some former India players बोले, when I talked to, had a chat with them, बोले मैं कलकत्ता में हूँ, हमें जाना है मुर्शिदाबाद स्काउटिंग करने के लिए, मुफ्त में थोड़ी जाऊंगा, गाड़ी का पेट्रोल भी नहीं दे रहा, मेरा क्या लग रहा है भाई, देश को उद्धार करने के लिए मैं पहुंचा हूं। So you need to means can you pay each one of them? You can't. It's as simple as that. हाँ, लोग कहते हैं स्टेट एसोसिएशन को पैशन के साथ काम करना पड़ेगा। Okay, let people then out of passion go and help the state associations. How many of people do it? People don't. So जो coaches है all throughout, they need to be the scouts. Obviously scouts थोड़ी specialized होते हैं, coaches have the eye. You need to have the eye to spot आपको कैसे किस type of talent identification करनी है, किस type of player को आपको चाहिए। एक आपका मैनुअल और एक एटलीस्ट बाइबल होनी चाहिए कि these are the things which we are looking for. Maybe you are looking at 6 feet plus, we are looking at 6.5 मिनिमम डिफेंडर्स, जो भी हो जाए। तो कुछ आपको उस हिसाब से दोनों पैर चलनी चाहिए, एक पैर चलनी चाहिए, स्पॉट जंप इतनी होनी चाहिए, सर्टेन क्राइटेरिया। बहुत सारे में स्काउटिंग मैनुअल्स देखे, बहुत सारे होते हैं, स्प्रिंट कितना लेते हैं, हाउ मेनी टाइम्स जाते हैं, दोनों के बीच में कितनी गैप रखते हैं। बट the coaches can need to help us in that capacity. There cannot be specialized scouts. आप कितनी specialized scouts करोगे इतने सारे स्टेट में? एक बंगाल को कवर करने के लिए आपको 100 स्काउट्स कम पड़ जाएगा। I'm just giving the example of Bengal because I belong from Bengal. आपकी स्टेट गुजरात में यदि पूरी गुजरात को फुल प्रूफ करनी है, आपको 100-200 स्काउट्स चाहिए। Will they be doing it for free? Will you? Will I? Will Arunava? एक दिन, 2 दिन, 3 दिन, you cannot leave every your bread and butter and go out for scouting. So the coaches who are there, they need to get involved. We need to involve them and ask them to kind of refer people then and there. And in the hinterland of their academies, वहां पे यदि डिस्ट्रिक्ट एसोसिएशंस एंड स्टेट एसोसिएशंस उस कोच को हेल्प करके, अच्छा जी ठीक है, आप उस टूर्नामेंट पे जाइए या उस मेले पे जाइए, उस पोजीशन में जाइए, उस अरुणावा चौधरी और नीलांजन और हिरेन पटेल को देख के आइए, यस नो बताइए, यू गिव हिम एन इंसेंटिव, दैट गाय विल डू इट 1 day 2 day 3 day. बट इफ यू एक्सपेक्ट कि रेगुलर आर्सेन वेंगर हमें बोले करना, हाउ विल? इट्स इम्पॉसिबल. व्हाट इज पॉसिबल इन इंग्लैंड isn't possible in India. So FIFA जो आते हैं, they say it from the Switzerland concept. Small country है हमारा, दिल्ली एंड छत्तीसगढ़, बिहार और यूपी और राजस्थान और केरला और बंगाल और गुजरात, हाउ विल यू मैनेज? इट्स इम्पॉसिबल. सो मेरे हिसाब से the coaches need to be doubling up as the scouts. That's entirely my 2 cents.
डेफिनेटली अरुणा सर, मैं एक दूसरा जानना चाहता हूँ, अभी रिसेंटली डायरेक्ट एंट्री आई लीग में अलाउ की गई है क्लबों की, तो इसको आप किस तरह से देख रहे हैं कि ये क्या पॉजिटिव स्टेप्स है? और एक दूसरा जो किया है कि एक फॉरेन प्लेयर को भी कम कर दिया है आई लीग में, और उसके नीचे तो मतलब हटा ही दिए है, तो इसको आप किस तरह से देखते हैं इस स्टेप्स को? क्योंकि 4-5 बीट भी आ रही है, ऐसे न्यूज भी आ रही है.
Clubs coming into the I League is a good thing. I think example of Bengaluru FC सबसे अच्छा, सबसे पहला क्लब था. 10 years, they turned 10 in very, very soon. Others have not worked so well. Clubs have folded, shut down relatively quickly. I think Kalyani Bharat, I think, was the shortest of them all. I think Nilanjan, shortest, no?
Yeah.
Others have had success, but then for different reasons had to shut down. A good example is, in my opinion, Chennai City as former champions.
Pune City
so
also.
Pune City to ISL, na? But Pune FC, DSK Shivajans, Kalyani Bharat, Pune as a city बहुत मुश्किल है फुटबॉल उधर establish करना, because Balewadi is quite a bit away from the city.
The city.
Yeah. So the idea is good. It has to find the right corporates. It's an interesting model also to see that, you take tier 1, tier 2, and then also look at the rural one. I'm a little careful about this thing going rural and saying you have to have an airport 200 kilometers away. That's a little far, I feel, with so many airports that have been built in India in the last few years. But I think it's a good thing that they're looking to expand to 14, maybe to 16 teams in the coming years. So that's a good sign. But again, they have to keep in mind what I feel is a problem is, and we go back to the quality of players and the quantity of quality players, is we don't have enough players for the ISL. And if you combine ISL and I League, we don't have at the moment 23 players for 23 clubs, or let's say 26 clubs potentially, if we look at 14 I League and 12 ISL. So that is something that someone needs to consider. It's the same thing with the Women's League. 16-team Women's League, lovely. But too many loop-sided. I would rather have a 6 or 8-team Women's League where you have quality matches than these one-sided games, because it brings nothing to anybody. It's just you're playing matches for the sake of playing matches.
Exactly.
One quality match is worth more than 10 other games. So therefore, that's the point also that you have is, are you diluting your quality by getting too many teams in? And with the player pool being relatively small, look at also what I League players these days are earning. So that's another. I'm not saying it's bad. For the players, lovely, great. But for the ecosystem, it is deadly because you're spending way too much. If you see what Roundglass was spending, what Srinidhi Deccan, what Mohammedan Sporting, what Gokulam Kerala, even to some extent Churchill Brothers were spending, it's a lot of money.
तो ये एक इसमें ये तो बात आपकी बिल्कुल, मेरे को भी एक कंसर्निंग एरिया जो इसमें जो भले मतलब टीम में बढ़ रही है वो तो अच्छा बात है, लेकिन क्वालिटी का, क्योंकि आप अगर मान लीजिए कि मैं फैन हूँ और मैं अगर पहली बार फुटबॉल देख रहा हूँ आई लीग का, अगर क्वालिटी नहीं हो तो चाहे भले ही मतलब इंडिया का एक क्लब हो, लेकिन देखूंगा तो नहीं, मतलब उसी के साथ में आपको ऑप्शन अवेलेबल है कि आपको यूरोप के साथ ही में मैच चलते हैं तो आप उसमें शिफ्ट कर जाओगे, तो ये क्वालिटी का तो एक इश्यू है भाई.
Quality to hai, and then the other point is one foreigner less in the I League. If you see, for example, this decision to say no foreigners at state leagues and tournaments and competitions, already the IFA in Bengal is saying, "Bhai, ye to nahi chalega." Kerala State League, which is a franchise league, they've already said foreigners will be part of the league. So I'm very interested to see if the AFF can really pull this decision through. Second division also, I've seen some clips. The quality of the second division was not as good as it has been in the last few years. So therefore, you have, again, until we have the quality of players we want, I think we have to live with the fact with the foreigners. And again, there are these players who've come to India, who've made India their home. I take the example of Ansumana Kroma, who's married a Bengali girl who's now based in Kolkata, who played for Churchill in the Super Cup. you're taking away his livelihood. You're forcing this guy to play only Cape football, that sort of 5-a-side, 7-a-side, Bengal rural football, which actually attracts more fans than the Calcutta Football League. So therefore, again, decisions are being taken, and that worries me at the moment. A lot of decisions are being taken where people are saying for the long term it's good, but you don't realize what negative short-term effects you're having. And that is my concern with a lot of things that are happening in Indian football at the moment.
Exactly. Now, what's your view, Nilanjan sir, regarding this direct entries and ये जो फॉरेन प्लेयर्स को कम किया है उसके बारे में?
देखिए, फॉरेन प्लेयर्स में थोड़ी सी, मेरा डियर फ्रेंड अरुणावा से मैं थोड़ी सी डिफर करूंगा. लेट देयर बी अ डिबेट गोइंग ऑन. Obviously there are two sides of the coin. One side of the coin, Arunava जो बोल रहा है, which is he's absolutely right. You cannot deny it. It's about your perspective. आप क्या चाहते हो. The other side की आपको मिलेगा चांस कब इंडियन प्लेयर्स को, बिकॉज हर कोई कोच, जो भी कोच होना जाए, आपका टीम का स्पाइन फॉरेन प्लेयर्स ही बनाएगा. तो इवेंचुअली जो हम लोग बात कह रहे हैं कि हम लोग को सर्टन पोजीशंस में, खास करके सेंट्रल डिफेंस और स्ट्राइकिंग जोन में कोई इंडियन प्लेयर को नहीं मिल रहा है, दिखाई दे रहे, चांसेस नहीं मिल रहा है, एटलीस्ट देयर इज एन अपॉर्चुनिटी फॉर दैट. उसी के हिसाब से ये किया गया है. बट देयर आर टू साइड्स ऑफ दिस कॉइन. आपको देन ऑल ऑफ अ सडन you do not allow depriving those players to be playing against physical players जो कि आपके अफ्रीकन प्लेयर्स होते हैं या बाकी सारे प्लेयर्स है. उस कॉम्पिटिटिव स्पिरिट से भी वो लोग थोड़ी सी हट गया है. सो यू आर काइंड ऑफ गेटिंग इनटू द कंफर्ट जोन एंड ऑल ऑफ अ सडन आपका बैप्टिज्म बाय फायर होगा व्हेन यू मूव ऑन टू द हायर स्टेजेस. दैट्स आल्सो वन साइड ऑफ द कॉइन. बट हाँ, बैलेंसिंग साइड आई वुड स्टिल से ठीक है, ओके, इतने दिन हुआ है, मिला कुछ नहीं, प्लेयर्स को नहीं मिल रहे, ऑल कोचेस स्क्रिप्ट, स्पेशली द नेशनल टीम कोचेस, let's kind of 2-3 साल का एक एक्सपेरिमेंट कर ले. Why not? At least the players we would be getting to get some names out there, but how much of those names would again be going out and playing in the top league is a big question. But at least at the junior, at the lower level, they are at least getting a chance. It's both sides of the coin, whichever perspective you take. Arunava is right. I believe I also have a point out. It's both sides.
लेकिन आप AFC का अगर देखिए अरुणावा सर, तो उन्होंने तो मतलब 4+1 से 5+1 कर दिया है अब, और जबकि हमारा अभी भी 3+1 है. तो वहां पे तो अगर आप AFC का देखें तो वो तो फॉरेन प्लेयर बढ़ा रहे हैं. तो इसके बारे में क्या कहते हैं?
It's a question of quality, ना? Club football.
हाँ, exactly.
Of quality. If you like it or not. Again, I am with Nilanjan that from an Indian football perspective, it's the right thing to do. From targeting fans, it's the wrong decision because the quality will dip. And that is, and the ISL is a very good example. You started with 7 foreigners and 4 Indians, right? Despite having some walking foreigners on the field, but you had 7 foreigners on the field. That's why the ISL took its time, with the number of foreigners going down to reach a certain level, because then you decided, okay, if I have 6 foreigners overall and 4 foreigners are playing, my 4 foreigners need to be that good. What Nilanjan was saying about the spine, that spine is strong. I have a good centre back, I have someone who's controlling my midfield, and I've got a striker who's scoring goals for me. Even Sunil Chhetri at BFC had to go to the wings to get his playing time. So that's a reality. Rounddas Punjab didn't get an appropriate goalkeeper as per their thoughts. They brought Kiran Limbu, the Nepal #1, back, who's won the I-League with Minerva Punjab in the past. So that is something that you need to decide of what makes sense. I would have said, rather than banning it completely, reduce it to 1.
1, exactly.
Keep 1 at least. Because then what Nilanjan is saying is, your competitiveness, you will decide who's going to be my foreigner. And if you're bringing in 1 foreigner, smaller teams will bank on the African, but the bigger teams will try to sign a better quality European or South American player, or even maybe player from Australia, who's going to give value to that team. So therefore, it's not a yes or a no answer. It's again, there are different viewpoints, and again, I understand the AIF is looking from a standpoint of how do we develop Indian talent. But also, if I look at Vidyasagar, for example, good example to me, striker, did well at youth level at East Bengal, didn't get the chance at East Bengal, went back to his home state, had a brilliant season at Trau, was top scorer, 12, was it 12 or 13 goals? 12, no? Nilanjan?
I'm bad in stats.
Okay, I think 12 or 13 goals. He then goes to BFC. Now, BFC has foreign strikers plus a certain Sunil Chhetri. Vidyasagar, minimal to no chance. Goes to Blasters. There you have Diamantakos. You've got Gianni. You've got those kind of players. There are very few like Simon Grayson who this season gambled on Shiva Shakti. And it's paid off for him. But that is sort of, I feel, once in a generation talent, because I was hearing about this boy from Raman Vijayan for quite a while. Raman Vijayan saying, if he gets a chance, this boy will show something. So therefore, again, if you want to tweak the system, try and do it. But it's very, very difficult. But you have to not forget, you need more eyeballs. Most important. If more people watch it, TV, media rights, sponsors, money.
इसी पे मेरा ये जो लास्ट हमारा इस डिस्कशन का एक छोटा सा मैं आप दोनों से पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू जानना चाहूंगा, वो है फैन एंगेजमेंट। क्योंकि ये मैंने देखा है कि अगर आप आईपीएल का एग्जांपल ले लिए कि जिस तरह से उनके क्लब्स, अभी आप देखिए कि जिस तरह से फैन एंगेजमेंट के लिए आप यूट्यूब पे देख लीजिए या फिर ट्विटर पे, सोशल मीडिया पे, सभी जगह पे देख लीजिए जिस तरह से वो लोग प्लेयरों को इन्वॉल्व कर रहे हैं। आप यूरोप में भी देख लीजिए, सभी क्लब्स के अकाउंट्स होते हैं, जिस तरह से वो अलग अलग सेगमेंट लाते हैं डिफरेंट तरीके से। लेकिन आईएसएल की ओर से, आईएसएल क्लब की ओर से हमें उतना ज्यादा, अगर आप बोलेंगे, आई थिंक केरला ब्लास्टर एक आध दो क्लब्स ऐसे है कि जिनका मतलब सोशल मीडिया गेम अगर आप देखेंगे कि जो फैन एंगेजमेंट की हम बात करें, क्योंकि इवेंचुअली वहां से ही सारा, अगर आप साइकिल देखिए, जैसे आपने बोला कि स्पॉन्सरशिप, मीडिया राइट्स, ब्रॉडकास्टिंग राइट्स, सब कुछ वहीं से स्टार्ट होता है। अगर व्यूअरशिप आपकी नहीं आएगी तो जो क्लब अभी भी लॉस्ट कर रहे हैं वो आगे आने वाले 10 साल बाद भी लॉस ही कर रहे होंगे, क्योंकि आपका वो सब मार्केट उस तरह से ग्रो नहीं होगा। तो इसके बारे में आपका क्या ख्याल है कि किस तरह से फैन एंगेजमेंट को बढ़ाया जाए? और एएफएफ की ओर से भी मेरे को लगता है कहीं ना कहीं वो भी अपनी सोशल मीडिया गेम में अभी भी पीछे है, मेरे को लगता है, जो एक होनी चाहिए। क्योंकि आप कुछ कंट्रीज के मैं देखता हूँ फुटबॉल फेडरेशन के भाई सोशल मीडिया भाई, वो एक मतलब लगता है कि हाँ भाई यंग जनरेशन को टारगेट कर रहे हैं, वो एक कर रहे हैं। तो आप दोनों का पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू जानना चाहूंगा। निलंजन सर, आपका इसके बारे में क्या पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू है कि फैन एंगेजमेंट को किस तरह से वो किया जाए?
देखिए, देयर हैज बीन अ स्टार्ट, आई वोंट से कि नहीं है, देयर हैज बीन अ स्टार्ट। मोस्ट ऑफ द मैनेजमेंट पे द सोशल मीडिया और द मीडिया टीम इज द लेस्ट प्रेफर्ड होता है, सबसे लास्ट ही उन लोग को लिया जाता है। आईएसएल में कितने सारे क्लब्स है आप बताइए मुझे, जो कि पूरी सीजन तक एक मीडिया टीम का एक बंदा उनके पास है। बीएफसी हैज वन, एंड देयर सोशल मीडिया एंड द मीडिया कंटेंट, आपका फ्लो इज गुड, रेगुलर एंगेजमेंट होता है, कम्युनिटी डेवलपमेंट पे वो लोग है, बिकॉज उनकी एक डेडिकेटेड टीम राउंड द क्लॉक ऑल ओवर द ईयर है। बाकी का क्या है, चलो जी अच्छा तुम आ जाओ इस बार मीडिया मैनेजर तुम बन जाओ। So you cannot expect an agency, and then when agency is hired, you cannot expect that same sort of engagement and community development from that, within that short stipulated time, which needs to be done. This is in the ISL. In the I League, there are hardly any. थोड़ी सी इस बार prior to me leaving the federation, we had kind of made it mandatory कि आपको एटलीस्ट वन मीडिया ऑफिसर होनी चाहिए। देयर वर अदर्स हु वर डबलिंग अप एज मीडिया ऑफिसर्स। पीपल सेड अरे क्या काम है यार, तो एग्जैक्ट यही टोन पे, क्या काम है यार, छोड़ो ना यार, वो दो तो लाइन लिखनी है कि आज मैच है शाम सुबह और शाम को आज हार गए या जीत गए, और आप तो करोगे उसको हम रीट्वीट कर देंगे। सो दैट माइंडसेट नीड्स टू चेंज। हाँ, दिस इज अ ट्रांजिशन प्रोसेस, अगेन थ्रेशोल्ड में है, इट्स चेंजिंग। सम ऑफ द क्लब्स आर गुड, गोकुलम इन द आई लीग very active, but it needs to change, and थोड़ी सी टाइम तो इसको होगा। And there cannot be any comparison with cricket and football. Absolutely, that's I do not get into that at all.
अरुणव सर, आपका इसके बारे में क्या ख्याल है कि किस तरह से फैन एंगेजमेंट को बढ़ाया जाए?
There are 2-3 points. Nilanjan has raised a very valid point, and I remember last year during the bubble, towards the end, I was involved in the I League. And I spoke to a few of the managers or the club media guys, and they explained that we don't have budgets for this. We you know, the person who's being employed is either a fresher or someone who thinks we think he can do media. specialists cost money. BFC's success over the last 10 years has also been that not only, Mandatta Mane came on board and ran the football, but if you look at the media department, that a dedicated person was brought on board on day one. He was there. A lot of ISL teams don't do it. Again, PR agencies are handling stuff. I feel, for example, despite of social media's importance, that you should have a website. East Bengal, for example, this season did not have a website. Northeast United has a website which is dead. It has even sponsors from last season on the website. So rather than having that, I would say Northeast United rather delete the website. And other clubs' website, let's not go into it, but there are some good ones. I said BFC is very good. Anuj is doing a very good job at Mumbai City, certainly. ATK Mohun Bagan, for example, doesn't have a website. After a lot of criticism that ATK highlighted success of ATK on the ATK Mohun Bagan website, the website disappeared, never came back on. So the Kolkata clubs, again, have a different understanding because there's a huge media in Kolkata, right? Other teams are trying to do it. Srinidhi Deccan are quite active at trying to do things. So there are clubs who've understood that that's part of the thing. BFC is, I think, a good case study that what they've done with fan engagement, with media interactions. Kerala Blasters at the moment is an example of where the club needed to step in and it didn't. That is also, the maturity of a football culture, which I come from a German understanding. I feel that our culture is not, the ultra scene is seen as something very, very positive. I see it from a German perspective as something rather negative because I come from someone who worked in club management, so I understand that the ultras are rather, it's a tricky thing, and in India there is not this understanding. So I think, and I feel the fans expect too much from the club. I always say, what can you do for your club? Are you a paying customer for your club? You are expecting stuff for free, and that entity is losing money. And that's a very difficult one to make fans understand. It's not so easy. And you mentioned the aiff as well. I think that if you would see with what kind of resources Nilanjan was trying to keep a website running, and Twitter and Instagram and videos and YouTube, and I'm not saying this because he's sitting over there. I feel he's done a very, very good job with the resources he had, and that is an honest thing. You see at the moment that the new AIF administration wants certain things to be done, but they don't have the resources to do it. And then the media team, those again, people are questioning the AIF, but again the media team is trying to do its best. But you don't have the resources, you don't have the manpower, you don't have the bandwidth, because the fans compare you to clubs. I remember this was five or 6 years ago at a conference in Berlin. It was hosted by the German telecoms giant Deutsche Telekom, and there were discussions regarding how is media department set up. So the guy from Borussia Mönchengladbach, which is a mid-sized club in Germany, very proudly said, "You know what? Our media team, we are 4 people, this, that, and everything." Then the Arsenal guy came around. He said, "Listen, nice to hear what Borussia Mönchengladbach has, but we are 42 at Arsenal, just in the media department." And the Borussia Mönchengladbach guy became very, 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 very small, because he was proud of what he was achieving with his 4 people, right? And he was doing the maximum he or the team could. But if someone has 42 people working in the department, the same thing, and Nilanjan most probably could give you X examples. If he had 10 people working for him, then the AIF could have done, I think, a lot more. But if you don't have it, that is the reality. And that's the problem of expectation management. That's what I'm saying also, this foreigner thing. You need quality. In India, the IPL is your prime example. Why is the IPL successful? Because the best players in the world are playing in that competition. But India is amongst the best. Can we afford tomorrow to say Paris Saint-Germain is going to fire Messi? Can someone get Messi to play in the ISL? Then the Prime Minister would have to create a team to fund Messi. No? Otherwise, that would not be possible.
Exactly.
That is the problem. No? The South, again, we are fighting other nations who are trying to develop the football, who are spending much, much more. Much more. And but we have to sell the product that we have. Just one last example. Season 1 of the ISL. The marketing was brilliant. My favorite tagline was "Ye Diwali Football Wali," with Freddie Ljungberg and Alessandro Del Piero saying it. Brilliant. I was in the studio. We were shooting it. Lovely. And Mumbai was Diwali time. Mumbai was Mumbai City. All the hoardings in the city were Mumbai City. It was insane. But that cost money. The club is losing money. So social media, marketing are the first things where you're going to cut money. Because you will spend on your team. Our problem is, unlike in Europe, they've said, no, you should be spending between 40 to 60% of your money that you have at the start of the year on your players. In India, teams are spending 90-95% of their money on the players. So this vicious cycle I've been talking to you about, high salaries, no income. You are not able to monetize the fans. But you want good social media or media interactions. All of this is interlinked. And that structure is not there. The ISL is only 9 years old. Indian club football at the national level was started in 1996. We're very, very young. Very, very young. All history, 100 years, legacy, very nice. But at national level, our football is still very young.
Young, exactly. ये लास्ट बात इसमें मैं बोल के इस पॉडकास्ट को हम खत्म करेंगे. इसका आपने बिल्कुल सही बोला सर, क्योंकि अगर देखिए प्रीमियर लीग को जो यूके में लोग देखते हैं वो इंडिया से ज्यादा पे करते हैं. उनकी खुद की लीग देखने के लिए उनको वहां पे ज्यादा पे करना पड़ता है. जो हमारे यहाँ पे जो सब्सक्रिप्शन बेस है, चाहे हॉटस्टार पे आता है प्रीमियर लीग, हम काफी कम पैसे में अगर हम कंपेयर करें पूरे साल का, तो भाई वो लोग तो बहुत ज्यादा हमसे पैसे पे करते हैं. उनकी खुद की लीग है फिर भी. तो ये इस बात सही है कि आपकी भी कहीं ना कहीं फैंस का भी ये मतलब ये रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी रहता है.
But that is again, yes, if you want to watch Sky in the UK, you have to pay 100-120 pounds. In the Bundesliga, if I want to watch all matches, I have to pay 70-80 euros a month to watch it. Just watch on pay television. But the other thing is also, when I go to a match, I am paying 40-50 pounds or euros to watch a game. If I go to a stadium, I will have something to eat. I will have something to drink. I will most probably buy a jersey or a scarf or something. I will spend about 200-300 euros on a match day. For example, Kolkata, Salt Lake Stadium, all these sellers around the stadium are selling fake jerseys, bandanas, yes, water. Club is not even earning 1 rupee out of it.
Exactly.
Sab nakli hai. Fans go to the Maidan market in Kolkata and say, I want to buy a jersey for 200-250 rupees. East Bengal is selling for 6.99. It's not selling. 6.99, that's cheap. So, mera commitment kya hai towards football
club
as a fan? I ask the counter question. आप लोग चाहते हैं, आप लोग क्या देते हैं? Simple question. It is not one-way traffic, and that needs to. That's why we are very immature in our football. We have to learn a lot. That if we want to be amongst the biggest, a lot of work has to go down. There are no shortcuts. Talent development, fan growth, all of these things. बहुत काम है करना इंडिया में.
तो इसी नोट पे हम इस पॉडकास्ट को रैप अप करते हैं. आई थिंक काफी ज्यादा मतलब डिफरेंट टॉपिक को हमने इसमें थोड़ा सा छूने की कोशिश की है, और आगे आने वाले टाइम में भी इसी तरह से हम निलंजन सर और अरुणावा सर को बुलाते रहेंगे और उनके इंसाइट लेते रहेंगे कि भाई किस तरह से कौन सी चीजें कैसे इंटरलिंक होती है और किस तरह से इंडियन फुटबॉल को आगे आने वाले टाइम में हेल्प कर सकती है. तो थैंक यू वेरी मच सर फॉर ज्वाइनिंग, एंड थैंक यू वेरी मच गाइस फॉर ज्वाइनिंग, एंड टेक केयर, बाय बाय, गुड नाइट.